do is we've got our keynote panel. We're going to talk about 2023 a little bit and 2024. And we've got Tom Irvine, who's the director of IT over at MonoSol, and they make the Tide Pods. If you're just joining us for this segment, they make the Tide Pods, right, Tom?
Hmm.
And so wave, Tom, so they know which guy is you, and we appreciate you. By the way, I didn't get a chance to talk about that in his other interview, but he also runs he studies mysteries. He does this. You do this throughout the U.S. You have people from all over the world, I think, following you on that,
Yeah,
right?
used to. Yeah, when I did them virtual. Now when I do them in person,
Well, that's a little harder.
mostly Chicago.
Yeah. But he studies mysteries and they talk about different mysteries. It's really a cool thing. I think it's been trying to get him to put it on his LinkedIn profile, so because I think it's super cool. Anyways, John Parkinson, partner managing director of ParkWood Advisors. Go look at his LinkedIn profile. You will see he's been there, done that, done it all. CTO, CIO, ton of large companies, been a huge consultant in huge firms. He's just real E&Y, I think it was your big
Wow.
one, right? Yeah, yeah. And so it's just really grateful to John. He's a well-known author. You can look him up. He's actually literally worldwide famous for being an author. So, and I always like John because you can always count on John for something funny to say. So, John, I put it out there for you. So, and then, of course, Tom Drez, you heard him telling some jokes. CIO for 21 days now, right? CIO
21 days left, yes.
Yeah, I heard the other day. Christian Brothers Services, and we're so grateful. Tom was one of our first corporate members, done an outstanding job. And Tom, you're also involved in a lot of other charity and service groups, right? What's the two? You have a church group you're involved in. What's the big one that you're involved with?
Yes,
The state.
the Lions Club.
That's
Lions
it.
Club's international, right?
Yeah,
Major worldwide service organization.
and you just took over a role as state governor, right?
I will be a governor in the state of Illinois for 60 clubs, right? We've got 700 governors worldwide and 1.4 million members and 50,000 clubs all the way around the world.
So if you're interested in the Lions Club, there's your guy.
There you go.
Right
Absolutely.
there. Yeah, happy to plug that because it's a good. You always have good causes and support the community.
Where there's
in
a
your
need,
local
there's a
community.
lion.
That's right. I like that. That's good. Looking good there. All right, with that, let's get right into it. So, question one, whoever wants to answer, go for it. Otherwise, I'll call on you. Bill Gates calls this period in humanity the age of AI. And we've seen hype cycles. In fact, Tom just gave a presentation in another segment of this show where he was talking about the Gartner hype cycle, and we're about to go over the precipice according to that chart. What makes AI such a game changer? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll jump in. First, I want to say, Tom, great presentation. Thanks for going to Gartner and bringing all that back to the nest. Not everybody can afford to go to Gartner all the time, so nice to have somebody on the spot. Yeah, I'll jump in then, if you don't mind, John.
Oh, go ahead.
Here at CBS, we're in the insurance and financial services businesses, so we don't make anything. So I really can't speak from a manufacturing standpoint, but when I look at AI, it actually takes me back a while. Here I've been here almost 37 years, so I've seen a few different cycles. And I'll say AI now fits into what I call, or what somebody has termed over the years, the consumerism of technology. This is, a lot of times as CIOs or technology leaders, business and technology leaders in our organization, yeah, we're looking, we have to keep an eye on enabling technologies. And when we see that they're ripe, we bring them back to the nest, right? Otherwise, it's business and technology first. A business unit has some requirements. You go to find a product or a service that meets their needs. But when the consumerism of technology comes along, this has impacted people, the employees, and starting probably at home. So when that happens, there's a groundswell where the consumers, your employees, start to push the business. Hey, we've got this brand new tool. We're starting to use it outside of the office. We want to use it inside the office too. So you've got this groundswell, and it's not IT saying, oh, because we've been using IT in certain products and services and parts of the business for years. It's nothing new to us. So I'm calling it the consumerism of technology. And of course, the consumers like it because I think it's going to greatly improve, or they think it's going to greatly improve their productivity, right? So it's going to help them work smarter, not harder. get their job done faster and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think that's a insightful perspective on this. This is kind of the fourth wave of where the consumer, who also happens to be an employee somewhere,
Yeah.
had technology ahead of where they worked. We went through it with the computer, we went through it with the internet, we went through it with mobile devices, and now we're going through it with this AI thing that it conveniently isn't really defined by anybody. So it can be applied to whatever cute stuff you figured out how to do with a tool built by somebody else, delivered in a way you don't understand, doing stuff you can't account for.
Yeah, the last big the last big thing I remember would be we all used mainframes and mid-range computers, green screen text. And then everybody at home started going to Best Buys or wherever in the world, stores that don't even exist anymore. And every machine they bought had Windows on it and a mouse. They wanted that graphical user interface.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was I do agree. That's a huge insight. I haven't read that or seen that anywhere, but that is a huge insight. It is preceding what's happening in the enterprise, in the company. Tom, did you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would add there would be that it can do a lot of things that we're not quite sure that people might not be sure of. So I think, like what John was saying about, it's doing stuff that we don't know what it's doing, and it's giving us results back. And I think about something like you turn it on all of your data, and then you instead of having to create a report or create a model to be able to analyze that, you type something in and out comes a report saying, your budget was 17% over what it should have been, and these are the areas I would look at, as opposed to somebody having to do that analysis themselves. So it's it's a way of being able to say, if done correctly, are we able to even go, not just be more efficient, but are we able to skip steps, or even have people who are working at a higher level, again, if it's done correctly. So I think that's a big piece, and that's being offered here, and one of the expectations of it.
And you have to think about it from what does it amplify beyond what humans could be doing anyway. Right. So a lot of automation that we've been working on for most of a decade now doesn't require any kind of intelligence. It's entirely rule-based.
Yeah.
And it basically takes the human error function out of the process. And we've gone a long way with that, but there's plenty of areas where we can still continue down that road. What the AI in all of its forms does is it lets our processes and our people use data at scale in a way that as individuals we couldn't. Not because we don't know how to, because we don't have time. So it manages to compress in the time dimension tasks that we know we should be doing but don't have time to. And the more we focus on those areas, that's where the efficiency comes from.
I like that.
Productivity comes from. The more we focus on those, the more we can free up our people to think about what should be going on in the innovation space.
That's the point, right? So if you look at the Eisenhower matrix, so we're going to do more work on the critical side, whether it's urgent or not, is what you're saying, because you're gonna get away from.
Well, here's the irony, Alex.
Yeah.
The efficiency mindset that capitalist economies have kind of overlaid on society has to get tuned a bit now, because to be good at this, we have to waste time.
We have to
try things that
play.
Won't work.
You have to play.
You have to play. You have to experiment. Now, you shouldn't be stupid about it. You should learn from what you do, but you cannot expect to get it right first time every time.
Is there anything That is,
I find, I have a bunch of private equity clients that
yeah,
come with questions to me about this stuff all the time.
yeah,
And
of
I have
course.
to tell them, that you've got to stop thinking that the productivity is the only outcome of this. Right? Yes, you'll get the productivity, particularly if you're smart in the way that you run experiments. But it's got to look at the end of the day that you put 100 units of resource in, and 25/40 of them were wasted. That they proved that what you were trying to do didn't work. There's value in that, but it's a different mindset about how you get to value than the one that we've really had from the automation push for the last decade.
So the automation push, which started with the manufacturing plant, I assume, was get everything in a row, and we're going to do more and more and more per minute, right? We're just going to do more work fast, the same work, more of the same work faster.
Well, Taylorism was let's figure out the most efficient way to do something. Then let's put people in like they were machines.
Yeah,
that idea. And only slowly did we evolve away from that and say, let's take away from people the things that people don't need to do and leave the things that only people can do to the people and make that more efficient.
So I read this article recently that said, with automation, AI, and all this, we'll be able to get a lot of the necessities done for humans. Do any of y'all buy into that? I mean, we just talked about now the grid's going to, we don't even have the grid working good enough. So where is this going to occur? On whose lifetime that we are all going to have this stuff just provided and taken care of? How is AI? It seems like that's a little bit of an overreach for me.
So the concept of being able to develop this post-scarcity society where all the basic necessities are taken care of for you for free, and you can go and be creative. It's a great idea. It won't be in my lifetime, and probably not anybody on this call's lifetime. Maybe grandkids, great grandkids. That's only 100 years after all. So, and if you think about how far we've come in the last 100 with relatively primitive technologies,
that's true.
Then it is easy. It's easy to speculate, hard to be right.
Yeah. Well, that's where you move into the have and the have-nots. So you'll have societies that have and have societies that don't. But we're getting way beyond. But you guys know me, right? So, told you I'm going to add. We'll do the mystery thing, but we'll also do the dystopian movie fan club, Tom. So, anyways, question 2. We'll go to the next question here. AI has actually been around for a while. You all know that. John's been talking about AI and machine learning and all this, and we've talked about machine learning multiple times. And what happened in the last year where all of a sudden it just blew up? What it just exploded, because they released ChatGPT. I mean, what was it? Mm-hmm. Anybody?
Technically what it was GPT-3.
Yeah. Right.
But it's like everything else that appears suddenly. It took a while for this sudden thing to occur.
Yeah.
I laugh about this because I did my first machine learning work 50 years ago.
Right.
And most of what happened in the last year was made possible by what happened in the previous 10. And it was largely 4 or 5 theoretical breakthroughs and a lot of cheap computing. And that collision of thinking about how to do something and the ability to do it at scale is really what happened, what made 2023 what it was.
Can you just quickly list what were those 4 or 5 changes were?
The papers that were published on the original Transformers paper, the attention is all you need paper, the idea that you could build these generative versus adversarial networks, so AI could train AI to make it better, and there's probably a half a dozen more papers that were published, but the community of people who reads that stuff had access to enough technology that they could take the theory turn it into code and have it work. And so we discovered a whole bunch of things purely from the experimentation that went on that were not predicted by anybody. That's really what made it so interesting.
That is pretty interesting. So you're talking about the scientific process actually worked here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Alex,
that people were willing to throw billions of dollars at it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tom. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think I heard you already say the word a couple of minutes ago. You used the word wave. So because now all of this has converged, a big confluence of all of these items, and nobody probably would have, no, necessarily not every CIO would have predicted that. Now it's in the hands of the individuals, and it is a wave that is going to wash over every organization, and they're going to have to address it in some way, shape, or form. The problem is, when I give presentations, I always tell people or business units or companies, so wherever you are on a ladder, and you always want to just get to the next rung up, right? Continuous improvement philosophy.
That's a good one. Yeah.
When these big consumerism of technology, big bangs happen, some people will be multiple rungs behind, and everybody's going to have to climb. Some organizations are going to have to climb multiple rungs at one time. So if you think your organization is behind already, you're going to have to be thinking about multiple moves to get up to a level where you're going to be able to take advantage of this.
That's a good insight. I think who's the guy who turned Chrysler around like 30 years ago?
Lee Iacocca.
Yeah. Somebody said, well, how did you do it all? Did you plan it out and do one stage at a time? And he looked at the interviewer and said, no, we did it all at once.
Right. Exactly right.
It was crazy. He said it was crazy. We didn't have a choice. We had to move fast. And that's what you're saying is you're going to have to move fast.
Some organizations will, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Did you have something to say, Tom?
I think the only thing I would add to what John and Thomas said is that the accuracy of the Gen AI improved from 3.5 to 4.0 is much improvement. And now instead of saying I don't trust the results, now there's proof that's saying it's getting better and can't ignore it.
That's good. So real quick question. One of the people that were here, we don't have it on slide. Can AI make spam go away? Sandeep asked that. Sandeep, I'll answer my take on that. No, I think AI will make it expand. I think the only thing that will make spam go away is, when it stops working, number one, and number two, when people block any email that is not clear certified or something like that. So I don't know. John, did you want to add anything technical on that one? Because I don't think it's going away at all.
No, it won't go away. It will require smarter spammers over time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the spammers have AI as well.
That's the point. Yeah.
It's as Alex said. If you can restrict inbound emails to people and that'll help. But it's not going to go away.
Yeah, and we'll talk about cyber we have a slide on cyber. You guys know we'll talk about that more. It's a good question though. It's going to just keep getting better. What other technologies are going to have a significant impact? So Tom, in your presentation, you just did for those of you just watching this segment, Tom did a presentation, and watch the show episode that he's on right before this one, where he talked about the big technologies, the big changes that happened in 23. What other technologies are going to have an impact? Some of the other ones that I keep reading about are robotics, the intersection with AI and robotics. Also quantum computing. I mean, one of you, Tom, you mentioned it, John, you mentioned it, the fact that we could even compute these massive algorithms and handle all this data is actually a pretty big deal, right, guys? So who wants to throw out what they think are the big ones that are coming up? Because I don't think the shift that we're about to see is just AI. It's all these other pieces coming together. Anybody?
So we talked a little bit about the grid on Tom's presentation. I mean, we actually don't have a shortage of generation capability. We have a shortage of transmission capability, and a huge looming last mile problem. All of those require technologies that require new materials, that require new manufacturing processes, that require new operational controls. So I think the whole area of operational technology, the OT space, is going to be much more important in the next 2-3 years than it has historically been. And it's going to be much more integrated with IT in businesses. And that means we'll all have to learn a whole new vocabulary to talk about this with the people who historically have done it, as they will too. Bringing those two together is going to be a big deal. Robotics is going to be interesting. The piece about how humans and technology interact, what up until now, humans have had to learn technology. We're probably moving into a space where the technology will have to learn humans as well. And that could be a good thing, because I hope I never again hear the phrase, "We'll just show people how to do it." If that's a design failure on the part of the technologists, because it should be easy for the technology to learn you, so you don't have to be shown how to do it.
That's right.
And then I'll just wrap with quantum computing. If you think AI is hard to understand, try and understand quantum computing. I see that as a low probability impact in 2024 or 2025, but a high impact if it happens.
Gotcha. So if you're investing in the stock market, invest long on that one. So, Tom?
What I would add is are the technologies that support some of the changes we've been talking about. So something like edge computing here. I was talking to a customer who's doing an AI and with cameras and visual, and they're saying latency is a real problem. I said, well, how far are you going back? And they say, well, we just go back to we go to the internet. And well, it's the latency of the information going and coming back that's preventing them from being able to act fast enough on the data that's coming in. So adjusting the networks and the way that we operate is one of those technologies I think that will become more and more important as we go down this path.
That's interesting. Good comment. All right, Tom, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, my approach to this question might be a little bit different. Again, I'm in the service business, right? So I'm not in operational technology. I'm not making anything. But again, if you look at the spectrum of companies, not everybody is a Fortune 100 company and always needs the latest, the greatest, and be on the bleeding edge. I'm fine being on the leading edge, and there's enough technologies out there that I haven't fully taken advantage of yet, or I have, like cloud computing, for example. We've been, if you look at the last 5 years, we've embraced an immense amount of information technologies and through a lot at our business units and our employees. And we're probably still, out of those investments, still working to extract the value out of those. Just look at cloud computing. Everybody's been making and moving everything that they can to be as a service. If we've been getting to that next rung on the ladder. And now, all of a sudden, I have no physical data centers anymore. I'm in multiple clouds. I now need to consolidate or figure out how to manage all those multiple clouds. And same with cybersecurity tools and services. Boy, my cybersecurity onion has a lot of different layers. I've got defense in depth, but I think the time is ripe. We're in that industry and all of my tools. I have to look for consolidation. So I'm not saying that we have to always look for the Big Bang Theory. I'm not going to be taking quantum technology to my senior management team. But there are things that we still need to do to extract value out of some of our prior investments and then get to the next rung on some of those things. Don't lose sight of everything that we're already working on because some of these other technologies are going to show promise between now and 2026, according to Gartner and AI for developers.
That's a great comment. I mean, this is the shiny object thing, you know.
Yeah, to echo that, I had a client yesterday
Yeah.
I was talking to, and they said, what I'd really like for the new year is everything stops for 12 months.
There you
So I
go.
get caught up
I
on all
like
the
that.
stuff I haven't finished yet.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Get caught up. So that's the shiny object syndrome, right? You know, you got to keep working on you got to still follow your strategic analysis, your SWOT analysis. You still have to do those core principles to run your business, you know, but you may say, hey, things have changed and we got to maneuver quickly. But that's part of the process, right, Tom? Because you've spoken about that many
Right.
times in terms of here's how
Mhm.
you create your strategic plan and your roadmap and things
Right.
like that. You know, so that doesn't go away, everybody. And
Mhm.
in fact, I would say that's even more important today.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. In fact, let's get to this because, you know, we're spending a little time on AI for obvious reasons, but, you know, crystal ball time, you know, Gardner said right now it's efficiency, personal efficiency, right? And then they had a big category that says innovation. Somebody's going to figure out how to innovate with this thing. So what do y'all, what your prediction? What's going to separate the winners and losers? By the way, I'll mention you all have heard my friend Robert Blackwell speak. He's spoken, and he talks about this concept he calls monetizable AI, and he talks about helping companies go lean. It's going to help identify where the waste is, and he's done that with his practice. And I think that's a really good use of AI, and also identify the opportunities. Where do you all see, you know, some big winners
Mhm.
where this could separate the winners and the losers? Because I do think it will happen that there are going to be companies that don't embrace a more modern technology platform, and they'll get left behind. What do you all think?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you mentioned Robert. What does Robert do, right? He measures, he quantifies, he analyzes and
Yeah,
calculates and then articulates the benefits.
yeah,
So I think it's going to be those companies that do that. And if they don't do that, then they're going to become like the Blackberries and the Novels and the Palm Trios and Palm Pilot Company. They're going to disappear, and it could be pretty darn rapidly.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you're saying in the technology space, you're going to see a big shift. That's what I'm hearing. I hadn't thought of it in that way, but that makes a lot of sense. We just have another big wave, and I think Tom, you identified it correctly. We're seeing it we're seeing it in the consumer side, although it's been around in other
Right.
areas for a while.
Mhm.
But now what's happening is it's going to be a requirement to integrate that into your product line. That's what I'm hearing, into your service. And it has to have tangible benefits. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it. You know,
Right.
John, you want to add something to that? Thank you, Tom.
So the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
It's going to be the companies that can attract and retain talent, that can be agile and responsive to the markets they operate in, and that can pass through the hype to pick out and leverage the things that make sense for them to use to improve efficiency and create space for innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little foolish to do this winners and losers thing, Alex, in my view, because there's always a distribution of outcomes, right? There's some people who become Google or become OpenAI or even become Microsoft, but there's a bunch of other people who do just fine by being average, not by being out at the 2 Sigma performance level.
Yeah.
And then they'll be the ones who fall away, the Novels and the Palm Pilots and the Nokias of the world.
So you don't have to be alpha to be a winner. Is what you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah. What you have to
Yeah.
do is figure out what's important for you in your market,
Yeah.
the way your culture operates, the people that you attract, what your customers expect from you, and how you ride that set of expectations, leveraging technology as you go.
I like that.
Most companies won't do it very well, but they'll survive. Some will not do it well enough and they'll fall away, and some will be brilliant at it and gradually shift the state of the game for everybody else.
Yeah. By the way, you were an enterprise architect at some point in your career, I believe, right?
I believe I was, yes.
It sure sounds like it. So, well, listen, I watch Sports Center a lot, and they talk about winners and losers. So, and I'm asking the question. So, I think it's good to ask this question because we just got a great answer out of you, Tom.
What I would,
how would you add this? Thanks, John.
Yeah, what I would add on that are that we're seeing a lot of large outside forces that we're all having to deal with. Whether it's COVID, climate, labor issues, even inflation, and I think that the company that is poised to be able to react quicker are the ones that will end up being more successful. So we all want efficiency, we all want better data and all, but do you have the information in order to be able to make the bets that you need to in order to be able to react quicker? Those are the ones that are better suited to gain and to win in your terms here in the future.
Well, you're all three of you are saying some of the same things, which is it's still back to basic business fundamentals. John did say in an earlier question that we're in that innovative stage. People have to understand innovative stages are different than efficiency stages. But the point is, I like what you're all saying. I also like John's comment about at the end of the day, it's going to be about who's got the best people and who's got the best talent, and are they giving these people the opportunity to do their jobs for the customer, right, John? That's what you were saying. So I think all these answers are great answers. So let's keep moving. Go ahead.
Part of the challenge we face is that every customer has to be thought of as somebody's employee. So this convergence of life at home, life at work that we sort of saw begin to emerge through COVID is going to be a much more dominant factor in how you find, hire, retain, and reward people.
Yeah, absolutely. Having said that, I did a segment with Dennis and Derrico over at Judge Group. And when you put out a hybrid or a remote job, especially on the social platforms like LinkedIn, we're on LinkedIn right now, those are the ones that get 2,000 people in like one day. And the challenge that these guys have is they can't sift through them, which is why they have people like the Judge Group to help them with that. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy to pull that off these days. So anyways, question 5, many pundits say CIOs, we're going to move the pace along a little quicker on each of the questions so we can get through it. So we have 8 altogether. Many pundits say the CIO should get ready for AI by A, creating a governance plan, B, start managing your data if you haven't. By the way, I would say start's the wrong question. Continue managing your data and get it ready. Invest in AI pilots, work with your major suppliers to see what they're already doing, and take a look at the impact on cybersecurity. Anything we missed there and sort of the key bullets?
For us, the focus is dialogue and education, and our senior managers, this is one of those technologies because they saw it, they see it, they use it, they can have this conversation that, they come to me. I don't have to always go to them. So it's right now we're in the education phase. We'll have to take it to the employees, and it's going to be, it'll be more of an education on how AI could be a personal productivity tool, but then also we have to teach people how to know when it's not telling the whole truth or hallucinating or making things up, or we certainly don't want employees to use it and then run into any ethical problems.
Does that go along the same training as how to know it's spam or a phishing thing?
True. Yes.
Sounds very similar.
It is.
Yeah. So anybody else want to add on this one?
I think,
Tom?
No, I think we got it.
Yeah. John?
The only one I would add is you need to start thinking about how to be a smart experimenter.
Yeah. That's the innovation thing, right?
As an industry, we don't have a good history in that regard. And we really do need to start figuring out how to make the fail fast model work.
That's a good segue into the next question. Now you're in charge of the product delivery, whether it's the customer interface or the actual product, and your CTO. these people who are creating that customer interface and the actual delivery of the service through technology, John, they have to be thinking like this right now, right?
You would hope.
Right.
So what would be your advice to him or her? You're in charge of the product. So Tom, you talked about in your other segment, you talked about Salesforce, and they're saying we're still working on it, right? We're still, at the time when you spoke to them, they said we're still working on what we're going to do with AI. They're known for delivering a great platform.
Right. Yeah, by that I meaning that you have to go through a number of steps in order to take advantage of their tool. You should just be able to push a button and it's available. That's what I meant about Salesforce. What I would answer to this question here would be that you need to come up with a plan. What are you willing to do, and how would you go about leveraging that? So, am I willing to turn AI on my customer and not have anyone in place, or no? Or am I willing to say they still talk to a customer rep, but then my customer rep uses AI in order to get the answers quicker, better, faster than before? You have to be able to kind of say what is the relationship I want to have with my customer, and what am I willing to experiment on or to try on there. So that would be the exercise I would run. I would want to go through and make sure I understand before we start down any path.
That's really good, solid feedback there. Yeah. Anybody else?
No, I totally agree.
Experimentation.
Say it again, John.
Governance, data, experimentation.
I like that. Very succinct. Yeah, that's where if you're developing the product, create the governance model, experimentation. What was the third one?
Data.
Yeah, a minor one.
None of this works without good data, and in 99% of cases, you don't have good data.
Now, okay, let's take it to the follow-up question. Do you like the chart that Gartner came out with about what they should do with data? I mean, what would you say are the 2 or 3 key things you should be doing with data right now if you're not already doing it?
Well, stop digging the hole is the first thing, right? So make sure that your ingest and curation processes don't put noise in your data, and then take a hard look at what you have and figure out whether you should fix it or forget it.
So what's really important to your business?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And whether it's important or not, if it's no good, then you can't use it.
That's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Great. Anybody else want to add on this one? Yeah. All right. Good. We're flying through. People are getting ready for the next meeting. We're almost there, guys. So question number 7. We just went through a pandemic and elections coming up. We've seen fiscal policy change. There are 2 wars. I hear mixed reports, depending upon who I talk to, about how logistics in our supply chain are actually going. How does all of this impact the role of the technology executive? And what do you see that will impact business and technology executives? Kind of like crystal ball time. I don't know that anybody could have predicted a lot of these other things that I just mentioned, except for the election. But because because we know it's an election year in the U.S. But what do you all think is, if you put your crystal ball out, could impact us in this coming year? Any guesses?
I'll jump in. I'll start. Money, right? Every CIO needs money to spend. We're not profit centers. So we need money, and I think everybody's already seen it. The poor economic climate of the last couple of years, and high inflation. We're no longer able to hold all of our vendors to 0% increases. Heck, we were lucky if we can even get just a CPI increase. Some of them want 5, 10, and even 15%. And some of them, their first shot is 50% increases. So we have to fight these days more and harder than we did, just 2 or 3 years ago.
Just to get basic funding for some of the things, and you got
and the costs are going up. We're fighting for money, and we're fighting the vendors to keep the bill for same services, lower.
So I don't know if you guys remember, Tom, all of you may have been at this event. We had forget his great guy from Aldi, and he spoke about how every other year, because they're a grocery store, and every other year they have a program where they have to reduce their budget, and it's just it's old time grocery store, and they're lean by it's built into their DNA. It sounds to me like that has to continue to occur for everybody, correct? You got to really watch that spend.
Well, especially in IT, there is always, every day of every year, there
Yeah.
will be an expense management pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Okay, John, what would you add on this one? What's your crystal ball say? Thank you, Tom.
I think that regulation is going to play a bigger part in executive lives than has historically been important. Right? We've already seen it in Europe. It's going to come here in some form or other. If you operate globally, you're already having to deal with it. And the regulators and legislators have kind of got the bit between their teeth now. We've told them for years that they need to pay attention to this stuff, and we're getting what we deserve.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. Like what's it called? GDPR and that kind of
thing. GDPR was just the beginning. I mean, there's the 3 new acts in the EU that have been enacted now, including one regulating AI. We all need to think more about the impact and potentially how to influence policymakers to produce legislative frameworks that make sense for us to operate within.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Thank you, John. Tom, did you want to add to this one?
I think the only thing that and maybe not this year, but in the next couple of years, we'll see more consolidation of vendors. I think the big are going to get bigger, and then some of the ones that maybe some of us have signed up with are going to get bought out or won't be able to keep up. And so I think we'll see a condensing of some of the vendors that are out there. It may seem counterintuitive with all the stuff that's going on with ChatGPT, but I just think there's so much money there that they're going to want to grab and become the winner in that market.
That makes sense. Well, good. All right. Well, let's get to the last one then. Final question. Given all the changes, and then I've got a question if I can read it from LinkedIn Live. Final question. Given all the changes we've seen and expect to see, how do you recommend technology executives adapt their strategic plan and roadmaps for the coming year or two? Well, if you're the CIO right now, both of you, 2 of you that are acting CIOs and fractional one, what are you doing right now with your strategic plans that might be different because of all the change?
Building in agility.
Yes.
Say it again.
Building in agility. I need to be able to rapidly change the direction in response to both internal and external events. More scenario planning, more plan B development.
That's a good answer.
I totally agree. And what I'm not changing is making sure that we're still aligned to the business goals. Make sure that that everything is based on that and not just what's new, cool technology.
Yeah, I would agree. If you look at, there was a time where we used to do 5-year strategic plans. There was 3-year strategic plans, but things change fast. I mean, things change within a year. So it's adapt or die, and I'm not willing to die.
Yeah. That's okay. So this came out. We came out with a good answer here. Thank you, John, for leading on that one. So be agile. That's what I'm hearing from all 3 of you. So that's great. Last question came from our LinkedIn. I just figured out how to read the questions on LinkedIn while we were talking. Remember, you guys all know Roman from DePaul.
Yeah.
All 3 of you. He asked, and this goes back to the Gartner quadrant. Using the AI project strategy circle Tom showed, what percentage of resources would Tom put in each quadrant of that circle? Do you remember that one, Tom?
Yeah.
How would you answer that one?
Well, in my business, we're B2B, so I wouldn't be putting a lot towards the customer aspect. I'd be putting more towards the back office and operations on there. That's just because that's our business on there. If I, if we were more of a consumer based on here, it might be different.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
John,
agree.
would you, both of you
Yeah,
guys?
I think I'd be 80-20 productivity to innovation related. I think I'd probably be 60-40 of the 80 back office to customer facing experimentation, user interaction modeling kind of stuff. It does depend a lot on what industry you're in and where you are now.
That makes sense. Well, that's good. All right, Roman, you got your answer there. So thanks for asking that question. Guys, I want to thank all three of you. Tom, double duty today. Thank you for the presentation. Great job. And also being on the panel. And then John and Tom, appreciate both of you also joining in. Always great to talk to all three of you. So appreciate you. Thanks, guys. You